Welcome back to vlog number 10. It's Friday night. At least it is here in Switzerland, at the Summer Star Center. Actually, I'm at my apartment, but I was at the center today. I didn't do a lot of filming today, but I can just tell you, I work with Jacobus again, and we did some tree cutting. We cut a tree, sort of a diseased tree in the forest, cut that down, drug it up the hill with machinery and all that kind of stuff. And sort of cleaned up and did that kind of stuff. And then we did a little bit of edging, with the tractor and that kind of stuff. So it's a good day, good food again. So it's Friday night. Tonight is going to be question and answer night. I have some questions I took from the Billy Meier Books YouTube channel. So I'm just going to go through these questions and answer them. Just to give you a quick update on the vlogs. It's Friday here, so I'll have two more vlogs. I'll have one on Saturday and one on Sunday, and then that'll be it. So Monday I'll be packing, and then I fly home Tuesday. So we're coming to the end of this session, coming to the end of this whole vlog Switzerland thing. We have a lot of footage. I'm really happy with the quality and the quality of the footage we have. So you guys can look forward to a lot of really good videos to come. On many different topics. So anyway, the vlog will be two more. It'll be one tomorrow, Saturday, and then one on Sunday. And the Sunday will sort of be a recap for me. I'll just sort of recap, the whole trip and my feelings and, all those kinds of things. So anyway, that's where we're going to go. And so let's get into it for tonight. Question and answer session. So the first question comes from TVO Talks, TVOE Talks. And he writes, "Hi, Mike. I have a few questions. The Pleiadian state that our spirit form is bound to this planet and this planet only, regardless of the number of reincarnation cycles we go through. But what happens once we become a space-bearing race and colonize Mars in the not-too-distant future? And what would happen in the event of an extinction event on Earth? Where would 9 billion spirit forms go?" So thank you for your question. Appreciate it, first of all. The first thing is, if there was a sort of an extinction event or a planet became uninhabitable, for whatever reason, comet or meteor or war, right? I mean, destroying themselves too. Then it's possible for the spirit forms to wander through. Now they're in a different, the spirit forms are in a different dimension. It's still in the same space and time as the Earth, the same actual physical location to say, but it's in a different dimension where they live. And if the planet becomes uninhabitable, so there's no reincarnation cycle, they're able to float to the nearest inhabitable planet and then rejoin in the process of evolution, of rebirth and dying and all that kind of stuff. There's a good example of that is the planet Melona. So that used to be a planet in our solar system. It's where the asteroid belt currently is. The asteroid belt was really a planet. It was planet Melona, and those inhabitants. It was like a sister planet, or a twin planet, a close enough planet to the Earth. That planet was destroyed through war activities. There's a good story of it in the contact notes. I don't remember where, but I remember reading the story that there was a war going on, and one side directed a river into like a volcano, and the whole planet exploded. So that's what became the asteroid belt. And after that happened, those spirit forms, all the spirit forms from Melona, came to Earth, because that was the quickest one to get back in the reincarnation cycle. So that's how that process takes place. Number two, same person, the TVOE Talks. Question number 2. I'm a little confused as to why the Pleiadian or members of the wider Federation would not intervene in the event of mankind's destruction, regardless of whether it was self-inflicted. The contact notes state clearly that there were interventions in the past between Earth humans and themselves to assist humans in evolution towards truth and teaching of creation energy. So why only assist in one area and then look away and stay silent when there is possible harm to humans? Ascot was involved in protecting the Earth from destruction in the past, and this is just one example of many. So this sort of borders on, not having to do with the teaching of the truth, teaching of creation, and teaching of life. So I'll go ahead and answer it anyway. But I really want to stay on. I want to stay on topic. So let me go ahead and answer this one. So the past interactions that you mentioned. There were two kinds of past interactions, or probably more, but two main types, just to make the point. Some past interactions in the past where extraterrestrials came here, they allowed themselves to be worshipped as gods. So think of, Zeus, some of the old ancient Greek gods, and Apollo, and all of those types. Those were extraterrestrials. And they were larger than we are, but they were extraterrestrials. And because they had higher technology and stuff, the people at that time sort of worshipped them as gods, and they allowed that. And religion started from that, and a lot of negative things started from that interaction. There are also cases in the past where they've intervened and provided advice, like you said. We don't have to go through those. I'll just acknowledge that is the case. The Pleiadians are like a doctor. And they are allowed to give advice. So, like a doctor, when you go to the doctor and you're sick, he writes a prescription out, and then it's up to you to go to the pharmacy, fulfill the prescription, and then take the medicine. Right? This is sort of the analogy of the Pleiadians. They're allowed to give advice. They only contact one person per planet. So in this case, it happens to be Billy, and they offer advice. They give teaching, they offer advice, they do all these types of things, all the encompassing things of the teaching of the truth, teaching of the creation energy, and teaching of life. They are allowed to do that. But what they're not allowed to do is to intervene physically in any activities here on Earth. So they've provided the advice along with Billy, and it's up to us to take the medicine. It's up to us to do what's right. And I can assure you 100%, if we decide to destroy ourselves, which has happened many times in the past. If you look at some of the contact notes and stuff, there was Sodom and Gomorrah, which is also in the Bible. There was in the Om, Limon and Turris, and Atlantis, and what was the other one called? Lemuria or Mu. Those two were cities destroyed again. So there's a lot of history of us destroying ourselves over and over and over and over again. To answer your question just directly, I can absolutely assure you, if we decide to have a war and destroy ourselves, they will not intervene. I can assure you 100% they will not do that for the reasons that I mentioned. So thank you for your questions. Really appreciate it. Okay, next one is from Mephistopheles 2469. Thanks for the question. And another caution on this, Mephisto, I only answer questions. This channel is about the spiritual teachings of the creation energy. I really don't like answering questions on anything else because Billy's contacts are so broad and have so much information. It's difficult for one person to cover everything. So if you want to know more things about the non there are other channels out there. There are absolutely other channels out there that will give you a lot of good information. So your first question I'm going to answer. The second one on overpopulation, I'm not that versed in that. First of all, it's well outside the teaching of the creation energy, but I'm not well versed in that. So I'm going to let that one go, but I'm going to answer your first one here. So Mike, I have a question regarding the aviary at the center. I was quite surprised to see that Billy has an aviary that is caged birds. I'm wondering how this doesn't contradict his respect and love for all life, especially regarding freedom and autonomy. Couldn't one come to Billy and his written material for the first time and accuse him of being a hypocrite? This is not something that I say, but I'm struggling to reconcile it with the teaching and imagine a more skeptical person could throw it back at him. So Mephisto, there's nothing in the teachings that prevents someone from having pets, just straight off the bat. Also, at the center, they also have turkeys, They have chickens. They have peacocks. Those things are annoying. That's the one thing I haven't liked at the center is those peacocks because they're so loud. And they have ducks, and they have other domesticated animals, like this type of thing for food, for eggs, and all those kinds of things. Also, in the past, some of my earlier time in the 90s and the early 2000s, they also had cows and they had rabbits that they were raising for food, for meat, and for milk, and those kinds of things. In addition to that, if you read the contact notes, Quetzal, one of the Pleiadians, also has a pet that he keeps at his home. I'm not sure what it was called. Billy said it was sort of a strange thing, but so the Pleiadians also keep pets. So there's nothing in the teaching that prevents someone from having pets. So that's the answer to your first question. And I'm not going to deal with the overpopulation one. I haven't studied that much on that. There's a lot of stuff written. You could probably look and find more information on that. So anyway, thank you for your question. Really appreciate it. So the next question, actually, they're similar. There's two questions, but they're very similar. So I'll read them. So Peter Ward, so it's PETEREDWARD 2547, asks, after Billy, will there be another prophet in the future, which the Pleiadian will assist? And the second question that's very similar is from Teleporter 5609. And they write, you mentioned in your walk that the teachings were given many times in the past, and of course now. Why wouldn't a future incarnation of his continue the teachings? So I'm going to answer this. These are both very similar from these two people. So Peter Dward and Teleporter, thank you both for writing in. Really appreciate it. This is Billy's last incarnation as a prophet. I don't like that term prophet, but I usually say teacher. But this is his last incarnation of that. There's been a line of 7 prophets that have been here on the earth. This is his last time as one. He, and I specifically mean his spirit form or his creation energy form, Nokodemion, which is the name, has been teaching for about 9 billion years. That's 9 billion with a B. That's a really long time. And this is our final opportunity to learn how to live correctly. And, if you think about all the times in the past that this teaching has been given, the Pleiadians have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort to assist and make sure that happens. Billy will incarnate more on Earth, just like any normal human being, but he won't be a teacher. He won't be a teacher as he is today. He'll probably do fantastic things, because of his evolutionary level, but he won't be as highly adapted, and he won't be able to do some of the things that he does today. That just won't happen. One of the reasons for that is, if you know a little bit of the history, you may not, so I'll just tell you. Billy was prepared for this since he was 5 years old. So at 5 years old, he began his contacts with a Pleiadian named Svath. Svath taught him for 11 years. And then he had another teacher, Asket, for another 11 years. So for 22 years, the Pleiadians came here. This is one person. They've been teaching and training and, bringing along so Billy could do the work he's doing today. That's a huge commitment. And they've done that in the past, with other people. And honestly, I think they're just saying, hey, if you guys don't get it this time, you're on your own. But either way, it isn't automatic. When Billy comes back for his next time, he doesn't automatically become a prophet. There's a lot of work and training and effort and from a lot of different people and a lot of different spacefaring races, like the Pleiadians and the Timmers, which is Asket's race, and many other of their federation have been a part of Billy's education and upbringing. That's why it's so special. That's why it is so special today. And that's why he won't be in this position the next time around. You could look back at, Jesus, or his real name, Emmanuel, who, also delivered true teachings, but it was falsified. The people of the earth got a hold of it, changed it, falsified it beyond recognition, and, turned it into a religion. Same thing with Muhammad and that, Islam turned into, a religion. It shouldn't have been, but it was falsified again. So If you haven't noticed, or maybe you have, Billy's writings are numbered. Each line or each sentence is numbered. You may have noticed that. There's a reason for that. So it won't be falsified. The cheat sheet won't be falsified because of what's happened so many times in the past. Also, if you've also noticed, if you've gotten an English book or any other language, it's for all languages, but since we're speaking in English and this is an English channel, if you have any of Billy's books that have been translated into English, it's always side by side. So on one side, on the left side, is always German, and on the right side is always English. The reason for that is so you can always go back and compare it to the original, so it can't be falsified. So that's a requirement. You'll never see a translated book by Billy that doesn't have side by side of the original German and then the target translated language. That's to prevent that. So that's why. Hopefully that answers your question on why Billy won't be a future incarnation, why he won't be doing the teachings, and why there won't be another prophet in the future, so the Pleiadian will assist. This is it. Billy's teachings are it for us. We need to take these and preserve them and make sure that future generations has a benefit to read them. So anyway, thank you both for your question. I hope I answered that one. And now for my favorite, Remington Robinson. Remington wrote in, and I'll read his question here. Hey, Mike, I have a question for you. Obviously, different people will approach this slightly differently, but I want to get your personal take on this. What kind of advice would you give to people who are at odds within themselves and have a hard time reconciling these two things within themselves and have a hard time with neutrality about this? Number one, the knowledge of overpopulation as the root cause of all major problems on Earth, the frustration that comes along with it being a taboo subject to talk about, and the helplessness feelings connected with that. And number two, having the capability of feeling genuine joy and connection with friends and relatives, as well as also absolute strangers who are growing their families by having children or possibly already have large families. Basically, how to feel real, genuine joy and happiness, not just feigned joy, about people who are having children, despite the knowledge of the overpopulation problem. This is something I have wrestled with within myself over the years, and I have my own answers to this question, but I'm not sure I'm alone in dealing with thoughts like this, and I'm sure whatever you have to say could be beneficial to others. Salome Rem. Absolutely. Remington, thank you so much for answering such a deep and honest question. And you're absolutely right. A lot of people will probably be able to benefit from this and probably have similar thoughts. Maybe not about overpopulation or about World War III or about whatever bad things that may come. They may have very similar questions. So thank you for being the brave one that has enough foresight to say, hey, I'm curious about this. I want to ask it. And it's very personal, right? It's how your inner thinking is going. So I just want to say thank you so much for answering it, for asking it. So the first thing I want to say is what I'm about to explain is based on my experience. So that's the first thing you have to remember. Each person is absolutely unique and have a unique upbringing, a unique educational background, unique experience, unique lifestyles. Everything about each individual person, on this planet and of course in the universe is individual. We're all individual people. And because of that, we don't think the same, we don't act the same, we don't talk the same. All of these things are individual. So it's important that you take this information that I'm about to give you and see how it applies to you. Test it yourself. See what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. What rings true for you or what doesn't ring true for you. When you look at yourself honestly, I'm going to ask you to look at how your thinking is. And if you do that honestly and you look within yourself after what I'm about to explain to you, It's the only way to find out. It's you. If I say this or I say that, and okay, Mike said this, it's just a belief, right? You don't have that truth within you because you haven't applied it or tested it on yourself. So this is sort of like the preliminary thing I wanted to say. I'm explaining some things based on my experience, and you should take these things and say, is this true for me or is it not true for me? This through a very deep and honest self-evaluation. So I wanted to sort of start out with that. The questions you asked may stem from a particular way of thinking. And our thinking that goes on isn't always noticeable. Sometimes it is. We have strong thoughts and, we're sort of tied in and have feelings along with it. But a good part of the time, our thinking sort of runs in the background and we're not really aware of it unless we're really striving to be aware of it, to be an observation of it. So that's the first thing. Our thinking can run in the background unnoticed. So let me talk about the causes. So there's a few possibilities here. I don't know you that well, but I'll tell you what the possibilities are, and this is what you have to take and weigh within yourself to see if this is really true or not. So the first possibility is blaming others type of thinking. And this could be, I'm going to give you some examples. This could be like, I try to talk to people about overpopulation, but nobody listens, right? Nobody listens to me. This is sort of like the blaming type of thinking. Or I talk with other people about overpopulation and they deny we don't have overpopulation. We could fit so many, we can feed the world, whatever they say. This type of thinking. I talk with people, but they deny they deny overpopulation is a thing. Or a thinking could be, these people don't know the truth. They don't know about Billy. They don't know about the reality of overpopulation, this type of thinking. Or these people don't know what they're talking about, right? They have no idea. So this is one possibility. If your thinking is, if you have any thoughts that are blaming others, that's the first possibility. So you have to see if this is true within yourself. Do you blame, is this type of thinking running in the background for you? So that's number one. The second possibility is judging others. So this would be sort of along the lines, oh, I would love to spend time with these relatives, my close friends or my relatives, but they have 6 kids or whatever it is for you. But I'm giving you an example of how the judging of others takes place. Or, oh, I would love to spend time with this family member or this friend, I met a new friend or something like that, but his family has 10 kids, right? This is sort of a judging. Oh, I don't want to be associated with him because he's contributing to the problem or this type of thing. So this is the second possibility of the thought processes that can be going in, in the background unnoticed, or maybe you do notice, but this is what you have to look for. This is what you just have to sort of look within yourself. Do I have these type of thinking, thinking processes? And then a third possibility would be having expectations of others. Why don't they only have 2 children? You meet some new friends or something, or relatives. Why don't they just have 2 kids? Or why don't they have 1 kid? They have 2 parents and 1, so population goes down. This type of thinking. You have expectations that they should be like you think, like you think about overpopulation. Or, why don't they have 0 children? This type of thing. So this would be along the lines of, thinking, having expectations of others. So these are but 3 possibilities. And as we know from Billy's teachings, that any thinking, any thoughts that we have, any of those 3, of course, any thoughts, create feelings. And of the 3 that I mentioned, these 3 can create the types of feelings that you described. These are the 3 that could specifically create feelings like the ones you describe in your question. Thoughts create very powerful feelings within us. So whether you notice a thought or you don't, the thinking, like if it's running in the background, if you don't notice these thoughts, it doesn't matter. They'll still create feelings with you, and you'll start to feel some way. And if these feelings are maintained and, sort of nurtured and maintained for a long time, emotions can form. And emotions can be triggered. Like if you're just walking down the street and you see a family, with 10 kids, walking down the street or something like that, it could trigger you into feeling, oh my gosh, overpopulation problem. I can't believe they do this. You know what I mean? It brings up that type of thing. If emotions have formed from the feelings, and that takes a little bit of time. Emotions don't form immediately like feelings do. They have to be created from feelings. So that's also a possibility. It's likely, my guess would be, and again, you have to check yourself. That's what I want to keep stressing, is you have to figure out in yourself if this is true or not. It's likely that one or more of this type of thinking process, blaming others or judging others or having expectations, prevents you from feeling the genuine joy and connection that you're seeking. That's one of these thought processes could be what's blocking you from making those connections with other people. And remember, I'm only suggesting that this thinking is possible. I'm not saying it is. I don't know you that well. And really, this type of advice, because we're all individuals, there's no way I can say. I can only tell you from me how I see it within myself, and then say, okay, this could be a possibility, this could be a possibility, and then you yourself have to go find out, do I have those kind of thinking processes? That's the most important thing you can do, is to try to figure that out. You have to observe your thinking and see if it's true for yourself. Is what Mike said true for me, or is it not? That's the honest thing you have to do. And then one cautionary note. When we begin to evaluate ourselves, it's very easy for the ego to come forward to protect itself. And this thinking, or sometimes people say this voice, it depends how you view it within yourself. Some people say this thinking, and some people say this voice talks to me, would come forward when you're trying to do this evaluation on yourself, to say, do I have this kind of thinking? Do I have, judging others, blaming others, that type of thing? What you would experience if the ego comes forward is that it would be something along this line. It would be like, nah, you don't have that. Mike doesn't know what he's talking about. This is the thinking this is what the ego would be, because it's very tricky. It would be something like that. Or it could be something like, if I said, oh, hey, Remington, do you judge others, or do you blame others? The ego will come forward and say, no, I don't do that. And then trying to get you to jump on board and say, oh yeah, I don't do that. So you really have to look out for this if you want to find success, because the ego is very powerful. I don't want to go into the ego tonight because we're talking about a lot of different subjects, but I'm giving you a cautionary warning. We all have it. I do too. When you go to begin this evaluation of yourself to see if you have this type of thinking, and it could be a similar type of thinking, not exactly what I've pointed out, but something similar in that range, be careful of the ego, because the ego will try to tell you, no, that's not true. That's one way, or will cover, or it'll say, why do you listen to Mike, the old 60-year-old guy? He doesn't know what he's talking about. It'd be something along those lines if that happens. So I'm trying to give you all the pitfalls on the path so you can be successful as possible. So now we talked about some of the the causes and the problems with that, on why you may feel that way on the overpopulation thing. What are the solutions? So in a nutshell, or the most simply I could say, is become accepting of others. Become accepting of the way others are, the way others think, the way others believe. And this type of thing, of becoming accepting of others, starts with empathy. So what is empathy? Empathy is seeing or feeling or understanding what the other person is going through. What do you think the other person is going through? We're talking about overpopulation. So maybe they don't think they're contributing to overpopulation, right? If you start with empathy and you try to put yourself in their shoes, and does this person really think they're contributing to overpopulation? Maybe they think there is no overpopulation, right? So by having kids, it's not like they're on purpose saying, oh yeah, there's overpopulated, so I'm going to even make it worse by having 10 kids, right? They're not doing that, right? So I think they may not think they're contributing to overpopulation, so that's why they have these kids. So if you put yourself in their shoes and see where they're at and say, okay, well, they're not doing it meanly, right? They're doing it from a lack of understanding. This type of empathy will lead to becoming accepting of others. And when you begin to have some empathy, some understanding will start building within you, some understanding of the situation. And what that will do is it will tone down the way you feel towards these type of people. And, a core teaching abilities, right? I was bringing a core teaching abilities. We can't change other people. We can only change ourselves, right? That's a very significant by Billy. We can't change other people. We can only change ourselves. So what does this mean? This means that if there's a problem between you and another person, and like a disagreement, or let's just use overpopulation, right? You think there's overpopulation, they don't. Nothing will change in that disagreement between the other person. Nothing will change if one of either you or the other person don't change. So if the other person isn't willing to change, they don't believe it's overpopulation, right? That only leaves you. So in order to resolve the problem or the conflict, the only thing that can change is you. So hopefully you follow me on that. We can't change other people. And if they don't want to change, the only way the problem is resolved is if we change or if you change in this. That's the only way. It's not possible to change somebody else. And, you can change somebody else for a short time with pressure, and what happens is they cave to the pressure, if it's in a relationship or something like that, but it's short term and they only change because they're under pressure by somebody to do that. So the only way people can change is if they change themselves. You can't do that. So I think the bottom line on this, hopefully I've done my best to cover this the best that I could. Become accepting of others, whether it's overpopulation or religion. Becoming accepting of, if someone wants to be a Christian or want to be a Muslim because it's good for them and it's right for them, accept that. That's their choice and their decision. We can't harbor bad feelings, or we're no better than anybody else. So, or politics, right? Another one, right? If someone has this particular political belief or ideology, become accepting of it. Because if they're not willing to change, the only way that the feelings you're going to have are going to become resolved is if you become accepting of others. So becoming accepting of others begins with empathy. So it's a good place to start. And if you could run down that road, see what thoughts are really going on within yourself, and then work to change those and start to build, acceptance of other people by starting with empathy, you will be successful and you will feel that connection with your friends, relatives, and even total strangers. So that sort of encapsulates the answer. Thank you so much, Remington, for asking that question. I really appreciate it. And I am sure that other people will find some value in this, because it doesn't have to do just with overpopulation, but it could also have to do with, Billy gives a lot of prophecies, right? World War III is coming, or, this problem with politics or religion or any of these types of things. We have to develop some empathy and then become accepting of the other people. And once we become accepting of the other person, there's no problem. Once we accept it, there's nothing in us anymore that causes those bad feelings or prevents us from feeling that connectedness of others. So anyway, thank you again, Remington, for the question. Thank you all for submitting your questions. There's 2 days left. If you'd like to submit questions, Saturday and Sunday is it. The vlog will be done. And if you want a question, put them down in the comments section, and I will certainly get to them. Thank you all for being a subscriber to the Billy Meier Books YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next vlog.